Everybody, welcome back to our next squawk from Birds of a Feather. Here with Alan Bondar, aka the Unraveler. He'll change his name in a minute, and Dustin, aka no moniker yet, although the closer has been thrown into the hat as an option. So, but I'm just not sure if I can compete with Kira Sedgwick. I may though. We'll have to think about that. So last week we had a conversation. We were talking about Britt Hartley's video and how she talks about various levels of atheism and what those mean and the impact they could have on people and as individuals and cultures and things like that. And Alan ended our last squawk basically talking about as theism dies, humanism will rise. And I had a thought about that, and we talked a little bit about it during the last squawk, but I wanted to just kind of pick up where we left off on that, and then we can go wherever we want to. So I do think, I personally do think theism is dying. I do. I think that as science, the various camps of science, mainly quantum sciences being the predominant one currently, as sciences begin to have more answers, and theism does not, because it just doesn't. Um, and I mean that respectfully, it just does not have answers, even for its own constructs. But as theism dies and science continues to explore those things and has more and more answers, I do think we're going to see this rapid lopsizing of the scale. Um, and I think that will predominantly be in Western America because I think really we're the driving force behind that anyway, as a culture. Um, But what I wanted to pick up on was something we talked about during the last squawk, which is theism doesn't look today like it did 40 years ago. It certainly doesn't look anything like it did 100 years ago. It's it's vastly different than it looked 500 years ago, and it looks nothing like it did at its inception. And so, man, really, I think I think theism is going to end up probably being redefined at some point because it just doesn't even look like it used to at all. And I think we talked about this last time. I think in the next 30 or 40 years, I think it is going to continue to unravel and reformat and reshape itself. And it's not going to look anything then like it does now. And so really, what does it even mean? What is theism at that point? What are its tenets? What does Protestantism look like at that point? What do they hold as, let's we cling to the essentials and on non-essentials we that old axiom. I mean, what does it look like at that point? You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Well, one of the things I talk about in How to Kill God the Easy Way, in my chapter 10 on the creeds, confessions, catechisms, and all that, and how they drove the church for a long time, and you have to adhere to these views. And as quickly as I switch gears in my chapter, is as quickly as the church has switched gears from creeds, catechism, confessions to now it's merchandise. Like if it fits on, if it fits on a shirt, if it fits on a shirt, it fits Jesus worth. That's like the new like slogan. So it's like if you could put it in a meme, that's the truth. Truth has become pretty much what anybody can post about Jesus on a meme, and if it makes you feel good and warm and fuzzy, that's just the truth. And that's really what it's become. As you were saying, Reformed theology, for example, has become the
It's an offshoot.
the offshoot of mainstream Christianity. Somehow, dispensationalism has become huge. But even that, I would say most Christians, you mentioned the term dispensational, and they're like, "What is that?" Like people don't
Yeah.
have a clue. They don't know. As you mentioned Calvinism, they're like, "What is that? What is dispensationalism?" What? In fact, if you mention denominations, they're like, "What's a denomination?" They don't even know. I just go to church. I don't know. They don't care. It just doesn't matter. but I have my shirt and it says Jesus is coming, or whatever. Or I have my meme and it says God loves people, whatever. As long as it makes you feel good, as long as the songs you're singing are warm and fuzzy, that's Christianity. That's what it is now. It really is, man. I get it. I know there are people who are going to watch this and I see it on my. You guys are just building straw men. I don't believe that. Obviously, yes, there are some of you who don't believe that. No matter what we say, there's going to be somebody that's going to say that's a straw man because it's still
Everybody, that's the only response you got was everything was a straw man.
right. And
And I
from
was like,
everybody. Yeah,
how, in what way? I mean, how it was, oh, it was infuriating. It really was. It was infuriating.
it is infuriating, and it's just because when you're still a Christian, you got to hold on. And when your view is being attacked, you got to find a way out. And the only answer you have to some of the things I've brought up is it's a straw man. That's all you can do to just go no 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 no. You can't deal with it, so you just ignore it and call it a straw man. But it isn't. It is not a straw man. I don't believe I put straw man in anywhere in my book. Yes, there are certain places where your particular nuance of Christianity wasn't dealt with in that moment, but it's few and far between places mixed in, sprinkled in throughout that your particular view is not dealt with. But that is just not the predominance of the book. I mean, the whole apologetics chapter, as long as it is, I can't understand why anybody would say that's a straw man. That's silly. That's totally silly because that applies to every God.
It does. Yeah. So I wanted to get back to something, especially because it's relevant to right now. You talked about meme Christianity, which is God, that is uh I don't want to get into it. It's bad. It's really bad right now, man.
It's
And that is what it is. Literally everything is a meme.
that's what
And
that's what evangelism has become.
oh, it absolutely has. And it is so heartless. It's incredible how heartless it is.
Mhm.
Point in fact, the California fires, man, the level of devastation is I can't think too much about it because man, last night I went off on a trail and I felt it pretty bad because of the animals trapped, the people trapped in there. I mean, it's bad, bro. A lady came on, very well thought out. She didn't attack Democrats or Republicans. She didn't even mention anything. All she said was the reason these fires are out of control is because California doesn't have policies in place to allow for those resources. And she was so well thought out. Whether you agree with her or not, someone who is trying to approach it from a practical standpoint, let's put some practical things in place to help these people and then prevent something like this in the future. That was her approach. This lady came on and said, "You're so heartless. I can't believe you would make this political. All they need is our prayers."
Oh my,
And
I can't
and
even.
man, I couldn't help it, dude. I went on and I said, "What you just said is one of the dumbest things you could have come on here and to say. Are you seriously trying to say that your prayers are going to stop those fires in California right now? Are your prayers going to save pets from being burned to death? Are your prayers going to save the homes that are on fire right now? What are your prayers going to actually do right now for those people in California? I want to know, are you seriously saying your prayers? You have some sort of direct line with God, and that's what your prayers are going to do?" And she came on and posted a bunch of little clowns and called me naive. And I was real respectful, but I went back and I said, "Oh, okay, I'm a clown, but can you answer my question now? Tell me what your prayers are going to do for those people. Tell me in what way those people right now who are their lives are devastated, absolutely devastated forever. How does your prayer sitting at home right now in the comfort of your living room help them right now? Tell me." And man, all these people came on and said, "Thank you for saying something. I wanted to say that. Thank you for saying that." And everybody came on to support what I did. she never would respond to my question.
Hmm.
And it infuriated me, Alan, because that is what I see happening in this trend of what's going on with Christianity. I think it's only going to get worse before it crumbles, because I do think it's going to crumble. There's so little answers. There's no answers for the hard questions. And so it is those kind of flippant, well, I'm going to pray for you. Uh, Pray for me how? Can you tell me how you're going to pray for me? I want to know. For example, I write about this in my book when we got excommunicated from that church, and it devastated our lives. I mean, we were social lepers in that community because it was a small community, and my wife was embarrassed. She would sit at home and cry, and people would come to at Starbucks and put their hand on my shoulder and say, "Hey, man," from the church that we were at, "Hey, man, I'm going to be praying for you," and like pat my shoulder, and I would grab their hand. I would grab their hand and look them directly in the eye and say, "Can you tell me exactly what you're going to be praying for?" And they would, oh, just, I mean, for restoration, how is that going to be restored? Can you explain to me, what do you mean by restoration? And no, and they had no answers. And is that really what that has become? You have the most horrific tragedies going on right now. They don't need your practical application and practical help. They need your prayers.
Hmm.
And some guy came on and said, this lady's name was Denise. He said, Denise, I would like to know how many lives are lost and how many homes have to be destroyed before God decides to step in because you decided to pray. And I mean, that's the kind of cognitive dissonance that I see just rampant right now with this meme evangelism, this meme theology. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there. I mean, right now, my heart breaks for the people in Los Angeles. It really does. I almost made a post today just to say that my heart goes out to them because I'm sad for what's happening. You know why I didn't? I actually had the whole thing typed out, and it was literally nothing to promote my book, nothing to bring God into it this time. It literally was just, I really am sad for the people of Los Angeles. But I deleted it and I never posted it, Dustin, because what I expected would happen is that all of those who were around when I did not do the same thing for the hurricanes that devastated the two areas in Florida and North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina. I can't remember which one it was now, but I made my posts and showing the whole meme thing and opposing God of that in those posts. So I expected, oh, you don't care about the people from hurricanes, just fine, and I don't know why, but I just had this anticipation that that was going to happen, and I was like, I don't, it's not going to go anywhere. I don't see any point in doing it. Um, but um, but what I will say is, um, it has the same feel of I'll pray for you because I can't do anything. I'm here in Pennsylvania. The emergency system is maxed out, doing everything they can, and they can't stop it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't believe in a God, so sitting here praying that God will do something is useless. And all I can do is feel sad for people. And I'm like, and, I might even speak some positive words into the universe and say, hey, can you stop these fires? And just maybe repeat that, those kinds of things. But in a Christian mind, that's very equivalent to I'll pray for you. So I think when you don't know what to do and you don't have anything you can do, I think sometimes I understand the whole mentality of I'll just send positive thoughts or the Christian verbiage, I'll just pray for you. My problem is that is not typically the last resort of the Christian. That is typically the first resort. And that is where I'm
Everything.
frustrated with it. Yes, it's not, there's literally nothing. Even if I flew out there and said, put me to work, they'd laugh at me and be like, what are you talking about? There's nothing we can, get out of the way is what you can do because you're going to die. Um, so my last resort is I'm sad and I send positive thoughts. But in the Christian worldview, the first thing you do is, and the way they preach it, and the way I even preach, the best thing you can do for anybody is pray for them. Is it really though? Is that the best thing you could do in your situation with your wife at that church? No, the best thing you could have done was go and confront the pastor and say, this is wrong. stop this because you're hurting people, and that's not the way to do this.
And for other people to do the same.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Praying as a first resort, I just don't see that. Um, so yeah, so that's my problem with prayer. Also the fact that there's no God, and so you're wasting your breath. But
Yeah, and that's because you said something interesting a second ago. You said, even if I did pray, I don't believe in a God. Okay, but Alan, millions and millions of people do, and they're all praying. Why isn't he stopping the fires?
right,
Why aren't the fires stopped? He could stop the fires right now. Boom. He could
right.
restore the homes. He could save the animals. He could do all that.
It's because he's very concerned about the upcoming football game that everybody's praying for their team to win.
And the
That
teenager masturbating in his room as he goes through puberty. That's a big old sin, man. You got to be careful of that stuff.
God's more concerned about helping you find your keys that you just lost than he is stopping the fires from destroying all these
Yeah.
homes. Yeah, it's
Hey, but hey, man, God is good.
but hey, God is good. Yeah. Oh, frustrating. Super
Yeah,
frustrating.
and I know that sounded so terrible for a second, and I don't mean it to, but that is the lunacy of that kind of.
Well, look, I'm with you because, as you know from talking to me and from my book, prayer is what was ultimately what woke me up. Like I finally was like, what am I doing? This isn't affecting anything. This is the like I'm talking to something that doesn't exist. This isn't helping anything. There's nobody coming to my rescue. There's nobody up there that's going to care for me. It's just me. I got to figure this out. As I always did, I just always gave credit to somebody that's up in the sky. But I just had to wake up and be like, what am I doing? And I stopped that and I started taking action, intentional action, and making decisions instead of praying. And it's just, so yes, I'm very frustrated with the whole idea of just pray, pray, pray. It's, I get it. I get the whole speak positive into the universe. Like I'm definitely all about energy and moving it and that kind of stuff. I just get very frustrated talking to an invisible friend as though he exists and has to
Yeah, well, and
stop
because
fires when he's not there to do that.
yeah, and I think because the difference is implication. When you say what you just said about speaking positive into the universe, you are implying that over time there is in some way a result within the hearts and minds of those people that will help them cope with the devastation that they have endured.
Right.
When a Christian says what they need are our prayers, the implication is that God will somehow stop that.
Yes. If God
Big
so want, if
difference.
it's his will,
Big difference.
it's his will, he'll stop it through our prayers. And if it's not, he won't. What do you know? It wasn't God's will yet again.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. So I think the implication is the important consideration, because those implications have dire impacts on the hearts and minds of people. I mean, God, dude, I remember sitting and wondering how how and why God would allow me to endure something like we endured when all I was doing was trying to help his flock. That's all I ever did.
Mhm.
I was an associate youth pastor. I was pouring into the lives of those kids. The pastor sent people to me to answer Bible questions because I knew more than he did, and he admitted that. And I mean, that's all I was doing. And on my own, I was pursuing theology and doctrine down rabbit trails, but never did that come out anywhere. And all of a sudden, I was a danger to the flock, and I had to be removed. And I thought, why would you do that to me, God? What have I done to deserve that? And all my prayers went unanswered. And the implication of that is profound.
Yeah. You know, when that happened to me at my church that they booted me for preterism. I don't know if you remember the story. I explained about it in my book. So those who are watching, if you want to know the details, but long and short of it was once I became a preterist, it was just a very very quick process where they finally just were like, no, this is heresy, and they just gave me the boot. Um, no more 2 weeks notice, even just you're out that same week. It was like holy cow. I mean, I changed the theology. I didn't like steal money or rape a girl or something. Like, good Lord. But they just like, it was the way it treated it. Like I had done some heinous thing. Anyway, I remember asking when they gave me the boot, I was like, what am I going to do? I've got a wife to support. I've got no money. I have nothing to fall back on. You're just going to literally throw me out without any more pay whatsoever. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And they literally, I remember the words from them was, well, we'll pray for you. And I looked at, I said, what the hell is that going to do for me? I need money, not prayer. I was frustrated, man. I was just like, are you kidding me right now? That was what they said. So yeah, I mean, it's like prayer covers a multitude of sins. As long as you say I'll pray for you, then you're relieved of all the evil shit you do. Ah, yes,
And any responsibility in actually doing something for
yeah,
something.
yeah, no, yeah. It's yeah. Prayer just rubs me the wrong way these days. I've just had too many bad experiences with it, as you have as well. It's very, very frustrating. But Dawson, I want to get back to what we were talking about when we started this episode and ended the last episode. What was her name? The girl who did the video?
Britt Hartley.
Britt Hartley, thank you. Um, so we were talking about that, and we ended the last episode, last squawk, talking about how as theism dies, humanism will rise, and how it's not going to happen overnight, where everyone's just going to suddenly become a non-Christian, which could, I can see her point, could wreak havoc, and it would be very, very difficult for our culture to handle, I think. But if it's happening the way it's happening now, as it dies slowly, people coming out one by one by one, I think eventually it could just die completely, and we could be done with religion and actually start to live without fairy tales. That would be wonderful. Um, but the question to ask and put forward answers to is, and to counter her point is, why should we want religion to die? Because her point was, we need some people need religion to live. Without it, they don't know how to survive. I'm arguing, and I think you are as well, that eventually we need it to die because it is not actually healthy, and it is something that takes away the vibrance of what life could be without it. So you have those two perspectives. So I'm suggesting it needs to be done away with completely. She's saying, no, no, if we do that, some people won't know how to live. I'm saying we'll adapt. And I think through social evolution, we'll figure out, a much better way to live. But the question to answer is to decide which view is correct. Is there enough evidence of the detriment of religion that we can put forth to say, hey, this is some bad shit. It needs to go. So that's the question I'm going to put forward now to you to start with, and then I'll piggyback on whatever your initial thoughts are. Is it does religion have enough negative consequences to it, negative things to it that we can highlight to say this is really damaging to both individuals and society as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think unequivocally it does. I think it would depend on how you approached testing to collect that evidence. But I think that would be completely doable. I think if you were to look at the guilt and shame that religion instills in people, the fear that religion instills in people, the I'm trying to figure out how to word this. No matter no matter what church you're a part of, from liberal Protestantism, non-denominationalism to Foursquare, charismatic, whatever, to Reformed theology to Presbyterianism, all of them are a works-based theology. They will say they are not, but they absolutely are, and you know this because the gospel is presented as you are saved by grace through faith. It's not of your own doing, it's a gift from God, lest it be by any work. So it is touted as a free gift. All you have to do is take it. It's free, man. It's just a free gift. But as soon as you accept it, there's a whole bunch of stuff you got to do. And some churches are very clear about it. They tell you what it is. Others pretend there's nothing that you have to do. And yet, when you start doing the things they disagree with, you quickly realize that you shouldn't be doing those because everybody judges you for doing them quietly or not so quietly. All of it is a works-based construct. That works-based um, mindset is, I think, detrimental to the evolution of people towards healthy, unlimited thinking. Um, the more you tell people you are capable, you are powerful, you are valuable, you are worthy, the more you instill that in people, the more free they become from the confines of worrying about what other people think based on what they are doing in their actions. They just do. And they will do and do and do and do, and they will end up succeeding. When you cultivate within people a fear of what other people are going to think or do based upon your actions, they will limit themselves all day long. And I think religion does that in spades. And so I think it would depend on how you approach that testing in order to gather that evidence. But man, yes, I think you would find it to be, especially within children. If you were to if you were to ask 100 adults, hey, do you think it's child abuse to tell your children negative things about themselves all day long and to instill in them a fear of punishment if they don't believe you? Well, yeah, that's wrong. You're sure about that? Absolutely. Yeah, that's terrible. You should never do that to a kid. Okay. So if I were to take my child and put them in a class where they were told they were worthless and incapable unless they were bathed in blood, and if they didn't, their souls would burn forever in eternal conscious torment, is that the same thing? Oh, well, no, that's the gospel.
Yeah, right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh no, absolutely. And take it even a step further, Dustin. I don't even think you took it far enough because typically the message and the one that Reformed theology particularly teaches, if you actually pay attention to the Bible and you see the worthlessness that the Bible makes of us, then you turn around and you say, and because you're so worthless, because you're such a horrible, no good sinner, worthy of nothing but
Vile, wretched sinner.
vile, wretched sinner. You're a worm. Nothing good in you. Your best is like filthy menstrual rags. God had to kill his own son for you. I don't even know what to say to like that is such a horrible man. Like and you tell this to kids.
Yep.
Well, we don't really say it like that. When we go to Sunday school, we talk about the flood and talk about all the positive things about it, like the rainbow. We don't talk about the fact that God destroyed all these babies suffering and drowning. We don't talk about the fact that you're so worthless, God had to punish his son for you, even though that's the actual gospel.
Right.
And we know that that gets taught to a lot of children, but the defenses go up as soon as you say it. Well, no, that sounds horrible. Yeah, it sounds horrible. You know why it sounds horrible? Because it
Because it
is.
is. Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying, depending on how you structured the test in order to get the evidence, I think you would come up with an insurmountable amount of evidence. I do. I mean, I think it would be wholly insurmountable.
Absolutely, Dustin. And I'm going to even go back to prayer here for a moment. And I think prayer, in and of itself, demonstrates that we could be better off without religion.
It's debilitating.
There has actually been tests done where people prayed for the sick to see what would happen if they would get better or worse. And it turns out that when the people who were ill knew that they were being prayed for, they got worse, not better. Because prayer apparently doesn't actually heal anything, but it puts pressure on the person that you're praying for to think, oh my goodness, I got to get better. And then their pressure that they're putting on themselves is making them sicker or more sick, however you properly say that in English. But yeah, so tests have actually been done that proves that prayer does not work. It is a 50-50 flip of the coin, except when the people you're praying for know they're being prayed for. And in those instances, it proves the opposite. It makes it worse.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at those stats and that actual evidence that we've done tests for, you got to ask yourself, why are you praying? Stop it. You're hurt. You're doing more damage than you are good.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so I think that would be a great litmus test, and a great starting point for a lot of people to start considering things. I mean, I will tell you, in the time that I have been fully out of the closet, because there was a cup about a year and a half where I was, I mean, it was pretty well known, but I never came right out and said it. But since I have been completely, I jettisoned all of it. I have had some of these conversations with Christians, well thought out, cordial dialogues about these things. And every single time they are forced to admit, I mean, yeah, I guess I can see that from your perspective. I guess I see that. That does sound pretty bad. And my question to them when they admit that stuff is, are you going to keep doing it? And they're just real quiet. Well, I mean, I mean, yeah, that's what the Bible talks about. And it's almost like what happened with you on that conversation a couple weeks back. So you admit this is bad? Well, yes, I do. And you're going to keep doing it? Well, yes, I am. Okay.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
The original preface of my book that you made me remove because nobody would read my book if it was if it started the book, that preface in itself demonstrates all of the reasons why we need to eliminate Christianity and religion in general. But I might someday post it on my website so people can go and actually read it because it is abhorrent and it was so strong. That was why you said you got to get rid of it because you'll never get anyone to read it. But it's very powerful, it's very, very strong, and it shows the evils actually of religion. So maybe I'll post it someday, but the timer went off. We are out of time. I let us both finish those thoughts, but we were out of it was like 2 minutes ago. So we're gonna call it quits. But let's pick this up again if we remember. And like I said, maybe someday I'll post that to the website so people can kind of read it because there's a lot there. And to this conversation, I think it's appropriate for people to understand all the reasons why we're saying religion needs to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, good talking to you, buddy. Everybody, thanks for joining. Please like, subscribe, make a comment, share it. Help us get rolling here. We love hearing from you. So thanks for joining in. Thanks for being a part of us, our journey here and flying with us. We'll see you next week for Squawk number 9, I think.
And
Or
I don't know, whatever.
I think it's number 9. But we'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care.